Good morning, 7th graders. Mr. A here out in my porch. It's evening and it is raining. It's been raining all day. This is Sunday when I'm filming this. You'll watch it tomorrow morning. Hopefully this long rainstorm will be past by then and you're able to go back outside. But for now, we're inside and we're talking about poetry. And what we got today, two words that you'll want to add to your tool belt, as we've been calling it, your poetic tool belt for understanding how poetry works. The first word that I want you to understand is tone. Now, tone refers, I'll get this in a bigger screen for you. Tone refers to the attitude of the poet or the character within the poem toward the subject of the poem. And we should probably unpack or at least remind you what the subject of a poem is. And that can be many different things, but all it means is what the poem is talking about. The main event or the main thing being described. We've talked about odes before and how odes are appreciating something. So if I wanted to write an ode to my cell phone, that would be the subject of the poem. Now, you probably shouldn't write an ode to your cell phone because is it really making your life that much better? Perhaps it is. But a lot of times people write odes to the love of their life or something they're really passionate about, and they're able to express their gratitude for that object. But anyways, your poem is always about something. Sometimes that's a broad thing and sometimes it's very specific. But you want to know what you're talking about, and then you can ask, okay, what is the poet's attitude towards this subject? And that would be the way that they're talking, the way that they're describing that subject. Tone depends not so much on what is being said, but how it is being said. So let's say that there is a distraught mother and she's been bickering with her son all day long about him doing his chores or something, or not getting around to his poetry homework. And she says, "You know I love you, Charlie." I just made up Charlie. And she's very earnest and serious and wants him to understand that he's still loved even though he's been acting childish. And then Charlie feels bad all of a sudden, and he just grumbles back, "Love you too." Love you too. That would be two very different tones. They're saying it in different ways. However, they could be expressing the same love for each other, even though they're using different tones. So how is it being said? How are they expressing their attitude towards that subject? On the other end, we have mood. So mood refers to the feeling you receive from the text as a reader outside of the text. So it's kind of an overall feeling you get after you read it. Does the poem make you feel happy and light and joyful, or does it make you feel sad and convicted, meaning you feel a sort of guilt? Or does it make you feel lively and adventuresome? Or does it make you feel depressed and sad and weak and tired? Poetry has a power to act on the reader. And if you're a good reader, you pay attention to what effect it's having on you and how you are processing all of it. So those are the two words that I want you to think about as we jump into our text for the day, which is called The Jumblies by Edward Lear, written in 1874. Before we start reading that, I'm going to give you some some words that you're going to need to know in order to make sense of this strange poem. We have Jumblies is in the title, which you'll figure this out if you read the poem a couple of times, but it just refers to the people that are in the center of this poem. They are little green-headed and blue-handed people. That's what I'm going to give you to start with. I'll let you take it on from there. There's some rain, sorry for the background noise. Second word you need to know is a sieve. Now, if you ever played pond hockey, a sieve is an insult to a goalie who can't keep the puck from going in the net. Now, why do we call it that? Well, because a sieve is actually like a strainer. It has holes all over it. And I just made some mac and cheese today, and I poured the water out, but I poured it over a sieve so that I could keep the noodles. Um, so if you can imagine why that's an insult in hockey if you call someone a sieve, because they're letting in all the pucks through the holes. So, sieve, you're going to need to know this is a sieve. Now you're going to need to know crockery jar. This is a British guy, so he's using slightly different terms, but you could think of it as a pot and pan, like this, just like the one I'm holding right here. Also used that for making my mac and cheese today. It was delicious. Thank you for asking. And we have timbolo, which is a baked Italian meal combining pasta and shrimp. And it's just a huge, like, pie-like thing, but inside it's bulging with noodles and tomatoes and shrimp and other goodness. You should go take a look at it. I've never eaten a timbolo, but after my Google search today, it is on the list. Last one is jackdaws, which refers to a type of British bird slightly smaller than a crow and kind of looks like the color of a crow, gray and black shades. However, you'll notice that in the poem that we read today, it's no longer those colors. So there's a lot of playfulness with this poem. I'll give that away, but I don't want to say too much more before I read it together with you. Here is an image that you that will that'll help you imagine what's going on in this poem. So here's all your little green-headed, blue-handed people, and just I'll give you that image now, but I'm going to pull up the words so you can follow along. Okay. And I'll read from here. Let me zoom in a little bit. Bear with me as we transition. Here we go, full screen, zooming in. The Jumblies by Edward Lear. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to sea, in spite of all their friends could say, on a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round, and everyone cried, "You'll all be drowned!" they called out, "Our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button. We don't care a fig. In a sieve we'll go to sea." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed away in a sieve, they did, in a sieve they sailed so fast, with only a beautiful pea-green veil tied with a riband by way of a sail to a small tobacco pipe mast. And every one said who saw them go, "Oh, they won't be soon upset, you know. For the sky is dark and the voyage is long, and happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. The water, it soon came in, it did. The water, it soon came in. So to keep them dry, they wrapped their feet in a pinky paper all folded neat. And they fastened it down with a pin, and they passed the night in a crockery jar, and each of them said, "How wise we are! Though the sky be dark and the voyage be long, yet we never can think we're rash or wrong, while round in our sieve we spin. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve." And all night long they sailed away, and when the sun went down, they whistled a warbled and moony song, to the echoing sound of a coppery gong in the shade of the mountains brown. "Oh, Timbalo, how happy we are, when we live in a sieve in a crockery jar, and all night long, in the moonlight pale, we sail away with a pea-green sail, in the shade of the mountains brown. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their hands are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve." They sailed to the western sea, they did, to a land all covered with trees, and they bought an owl, and a useful cart, and a pound of rice, and a cranberry tart, and a hive of silvery bees. And oh, I messed up. And they bought a pig, and some green jackdaws, and a lovely monkey with lollipop paws, and 40 bottles of Ringbo Ree, and no end of Stilton cheese. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green, and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And in 20 years they all came back, in 20 years or more, and everyone said, "How tall they've grown!" For they've been to the lakes, and the torrible zone, and the hills of Chunkly Bore, and they drank their health and gave them a feast of dumplings made of beautiful yeast, and everyone said, "If we only live, we too will go to sea in a sieve, to the hills of the Chankly Bore. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve." Oh, lovely. Okay. We're not going to analyze this really deeply because it's not meant to be. It's supposed to be fun. This is the story of a sea voyage. It's the story of these made-up creatures. It has a chant-like sound to it where you can almost sing it. You could put this to a melody and make it even more memorable. But I bet sometime while you lie down to sleep tonight, in your head will creep this little line. Far and few are the land where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And you'll picture these little tiny people that are riding in a sieve inside of a crock pot, a little pan, and they are very, very proud of this. And they have a little ribbon tied to their mast, which is the part of the ship that holds up the sail. And they have their beautiful pea green veil, which keeps them moving in the westward seas. Right? It's fun. It's just supposed to be a little playful romp. And so when we get back to the question of tone, we have a very um, let's think of the words now. You should be thinking while I'm thinking. Tone is the attitude that the speaker or the author has towards their subject. So I would say this is an adventuresome tone. We have these little Jumblies who are set on their adventure. And if we were to analyze the tone of them in particular, they would be bold and um, assertive and determined and fearless and not too bright. they have to they have to get a backup plan quick when their sieve starts sinking. So that is the tone. And if you had to diagnose or analyze the tone of the poem as a whole, it would be like we said before, playful and um, fast, rhythmic, um, musical, absolutely. Um, Maybe you would call it childish. You could read this to a child easily, and it would be a tone that would ring true to them. So when we talk about ringing true as the audience, we're getting into the mood now, which is the mood that this poem puts you in. What does it foster in your mind when you listen to this? How did you respond? Were you smiling? Were you laughing? So that would be a comical mood. A comical mood, and not so much entertaining, because that's kind of a given. Um, but you could also list playful as this. Other things for mood. I would say it even makes me um, it makes me want to go explore. So it gives me that um, kind of that heart to get out there and explore and go see the world. and go on a boat again. So I don't have an exact word for that, but it gives me a determination to go do that, which I hope to this summer. I hope you do too. I hope you go on an adventure like the Jumblies. Remember, at the end, it gives that effect to the other people they return to. After they've been sailing the western seas and they get back to their own home, those old Jumblies who had been doubting them so much all of a sudden want to go in a sieve on the sea, just like the Jumblies did at the beginning of the poem. So it had that effect on them. It had that effect on me. That's the mood of this piece. It's a call to adventure, and it's funny. It's light. It's not supposed to be that serious. Um, so, poetry can be a lot of different things we've seen. We've had some serious stuff with Ozymandias, with Percy Shelley, who are telling you about how these great civilizations have come to fall and now they're just rubble in the desert. That's serious stuff. We've talked about the romantics with Wordsworth, how he's out there enjoying the breeze and the daffodils and nature, and that is also playful, right? It's talking about how there's literally a dance off between the waves and the daffodils, but he still has this gravity to him. And at the end of the poem, he's going back to his imagination, and he says it's getting him through the hard times that he's not in nature. And in this poem, it's got this childlike tone to it, and it puts you in a light mood. So that is the poem for today. The Jumblies. Go read it again. Go sing it. Go memorize it. Go tell it to your friends. Enjoy it. All right, that's what I got for you today. Have a wonderful afternoon and evening, and I'll see you tomorrow.